I am already back. 40 minutes after going off of one show, I'm coming right back. Hot. Feeling good. It's a shame, though, that we have this dreadful, dreadful pitching slate today. A couple high-end options that are great. Lots of low-end options that are not great. Adam, what's your favorite pitcher on the slate right now? Just blind.
Carlos Carrasco.
Okay.
Me and the rest of the world.
Yeah. 56% expected ownership for Carrasco on DK. It's really easy to land there. And 46% Chris Archer. I mean, 1, 2, 3. We've got 140% of the 200% ownership at pitcher concentrated to those three guys. 70% of the pitching is in Carrasco, Archer, and Erlin.
Yeah, it's annoying because normally I love slates like that where you can get different, but it's just so hard to find good pivots on this slate. Right now, I'm just leaning towards kind of eating it at pitcher and being a little bit different, assuming I'll be different somewhere, amongst my stacks. Hopefully, we can figure some stuff out during the show though, where maybe we can make some pivots.
Yeah, I mean there are a couple natural spots to immediately look, whether that's having more Bueller than Carrasco. Archer's the guy that's in sort of no man's land, where there's not a lot of guys around him. You have the range from Stratton to Gio Gonzalez, where it's 8,400 to 7,100. Otherwise, you're hopping up into the 9s or down to the 5s. That's just very different pitching. So
yeah,
that's the
I
hard
think
spot.
if I'm going to be underweight on Archer, which I haven't decided. I mean, I agree with you. He's just so far and away the top option in that price range. But I think the most effective way to fade him would probably be to just get out of the price range altogether. Go down to a Robbie Erlin or one of the lower owned guys in that price range. Get a couple extra bats because Archer, like we've talked about it so much with Archer, that price tag's just so cheap. We haven't seen ceiling games from him, but it's just so hard for him to actually fail. If I'm pivoting off of him and staying in that price range, it kind of feels like I need Kansas City bats because if Kansas City doesn't do anything, like Archer's just going to win that range.
I think I totally agree with you. I think we need to take a look at Gio. But other than that, I don't really have anybody that I find particularly interesting, whether it's because of their price, like Felix Pena, or because of their talent, like, I don't know, Felix Pena.
Like Gio.
Yeah. Gio at 7,100 is interesting to me. And I don't know if it's just because I go down this road a lot with Gio. I mean, hell, I've been away for so long that I forgot he was on the Brewers. So when I saw Gio, I was like, oh, I must have typed this in wrong because I don't have the Nats going against the Reds here. Totally forgot it happened. His first start was on a day that I don't work, and then I didn't see his most recent one because I was gone, obviously. So for the past 2 weeks, like, he's just a guy that hasn't existed to me.
Yeah, I mean, he's one at least worth digging into because it is a decent matchup. It's a nice price point. It's just like I'm hoping we can find something he's doing different with Milwaukee because I was just completely off this guy with Washington and felt good about it every time, just not playing him. So hopefully we can figure something out with him.
Yeah, I look at it like this. It's Gio against a Reds team that isn't spectacular. And the scariest parts of that lineup outside of Suarez are also lefties. And if he can minimize Schebler and, Votto, not a huge power threat lefty, you really just have to navigate Suarez. Otherwise, it's like, Peraza can hurt you, but he's not some sort of like known slugger. You get three lefties, Schebler, Votto, Scooter, and you hope for the best. And I think that might be okay if Chris Archer is going to be 46% owned. Like, if Archer's 30, I don't dig into anything else. I'm just probably cool with it. But if Chris Archer's a coin flip, whether he's in a lineup against you or not, then I'm like, okay, well, Archer probably shouldn't have 10 times the ownership of Gio.
Yeah, exactly. 30 kind of feels like 30 to 40 kind of feels like the right range for Archer. And assuming he might be higher, like I'd be okay being under the field if he's higher than that. Geo does kind of look interesting, though. I just kind of quickly pulled up his stuff on Fangraphs while I'm getting up the other pages I normally look at. The swinging strike stuff's been really good in his 2 starts with Milwaukee. One was against the Giants, so I don't really care that much, but the other was against Pittsburgh. And also his changeup usage over his last 3 starts. The 2 starts with Milwaukee, the one prior with Washington, has been up, closer to 30% than usual. And against right-handed hitters this year, he does have almost a 16% swinging strike rate on his changeup. So that's at least a good sign, I think, for maybe better strikeout upside down the road.
I hope so, because I'm going to have like a decent amount of Geo. If he's at 4%, I don't see it going any higher than, I don't know, 10 at max at this point. I'd rather have 20.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's just easier. I can't see him killing me. Like, what is the major downside here for the Reds? That he gets like BABIP to death?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's someone I just like am certainly biased against because I never see the upside with him, but it looks like maybe it is finally there since going to Milwaukee. So over the last month, he has allowed a 323 expected WOBA to righties, which is fine. Has a 13.9% swinging strike rate, which is obviously really good. So that's something working in his favor too.
28.35 fantasy points against San Francisco on September 8th. Obviously, you would do backflips for that at 7,100 today. The rest of those starts in between that, though, are grimy.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can just, like, outside of the increased changeup usage, I'm hoping to just find something on Brooks Baseball that looks completely different since he joined Milwaukee.
28.35 on September 8th. It's the first time that he's been over 20 fantasy points on DraftKings since June 2nd. That's terrifying. He struck out 6 on August 29th, right before the trade, so still with the Nats. Still only got 5 fantasy points, but he K'd 6. That was the first time he K'd more than 5 guys since that same start in June. He's just he just stopped striking people out in bulk. He'd get 4, 5, and that's just it. Last 3 starts, 6, 7, and 6. I don't know what to make of this dude. What happened to him? Where did he go?
Yeah, I mean, like when he was good, he was always someone that I kind of would underweight the field just because he didn't have that monster upside, but he was at least an effective pitcher. And then he had that stretch where he was just absolutely terrible with Washington. So hopefully he's turned things around. Like, it's just so hard for me to buy into him if I can't find any real difference. Outside of the fact, like you said, the ownership's going to be so low and it's such a natural pivot off of Archer.
Yeah. I feel like I'm overrating him just based on, I don't know, 2015 Gio Gonzalez in my head.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anybody else that you can get to in that Archer range that you think is worth digging into?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, like Chris Stratton is. I played him against the Rockies. That went really, really well. But his price tag increased. He's someone that I think is decent. He worked during his minor league stint where he was demoted on hiding the ball better. He felt like he was showing it too early, trying to be a little bit more deceptive. And he has had some good starts since coming back. But 8,400 is like, you're paying for his ceiling basically. Obviously 40 points is an outlier. Like, you're paying for his 80th percentile production. It's a good matchup, but it's still kind of a tough pill to swallow unless we do see San Diego end up being really popular. Then that gets him like added value, I guess.
Yeah, look, he put up a 40 burger last week, and he had 31 on the 27th of August against Arizona. The 2 starts in between that were 11 and 11, and right. That is going to murder you at 8,400.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he should be at most, like $7,000 any given matchup because he's not a good pitcher. He has some upside. Like, he's not a great pitcher. He has some upside. He can be good at times, but he's not going to do it consistently. And when you see him bumped up this high, you're like whereas Chris Archer, I think you're paying for his median and maybe even a little bit lower production. On Stratton, you're basically putting yourself in a position where he has to go out there and have a really good game.
And it's not even so much that he's having like a great game, it's that he's throwing into the 8th inning or throwing a complete game. Whereas that's just, you don't really see that all that often out of anybody. So just having the ability to get to the 8th inning and not get bludgeoned is honestly saving him. He's going deeper than most. But if he's going to go 6 innings, the chances of him providing you any value at 8,400 are basically zero. He just doesn't have that arsenal.
So I probably am not that interested, but I guess maybe worth taking a look at Tyler Anderson just because he's good in that price range. Like, I think he's a better pitcher than Gio. I think the matchup's absolutely trash.
Yeah, so I looked at that earlier. Projected lineup today, sea of righties, all 8 in the projected lineup right now. But that's not a huge deal. Anderson's been fine against righties all season. He's basically has neutral xFIP numbers, like just digging in very generally. Jake and I touched on it just ever so slightly towards the end of our show. But this season, 4.19 xFIP against righties, 4.12 xFIP against lefties. Hasn't really been a problem on either side. You know, his whip is a little bit higher against lefties, which is also surprising. So maybe it's not such a bad idea to look at Tyler Anderson against all these righties, because I think no one will go to him thinking lefty-righty, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not a spot where like I wouldn't consider being like, okay, I'm just going to take all my Archer or most of my Archer and make it Tyler Anderson.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah, it's a bad matchup. It's guys that go deep in counts. It's guys that don't strike out. But at the same time, Anderson does have the talent to go out and pitch a good game against basically anyone. So I think maybe it's worth, especially in large field tournaments, just at least, diversifying a bit and taking some of that Archer exposure and making it a 1 or 2% owned Tyler Anderson.
Yeah, exactly. There's no one else in this Archer range where you're like, okay, I'll take 30% of this guy instead. It's, I could do like 10-ish, 10 to 15 Gio, 10 to 15 Anderson, and take whatever's left for Archer. And if I'm under the field, I'll assuredly be under the field at that point. Just sort of throw my hands up in the air and call it a day. Yeah, I'm leaning more towards Anderson now as a guy who can just sort of make his way through this spot. You're not going to be comfortable until he's already out of the game. It's going to be scary every single at bat. There's just too much talent. I didn't hear what you said.
So you're leaning Anderson over Gio now?
I think so.
I think you got me on Gio.
Really? Well, they're both projected for 4% ownership. I think that I could comfortably have both guys.
Yeah, that's fair.
At some 10 to 15% range. So not so much a lean in either direction, but I do like the idea that Anderson isn't just a gas can against right-handed pitching or right-handed hitting.
Yeah. I mean, I still think my favorite way to get away from Archer is to just get an extra hitter and get completely off these guys.
So let's talk about that then. We have 7 options under Gio. I would say that 2 of them are probably not in play whatsoever. Yacobonis, and if it is for the Mariners, Elias, I don't see that being a particularly relevant spot. Yacobonis for sure. I mean, he's just not going to go deep enough into the game. So we're looking at chalk Robbie Erlin, that's a sentence that happens in the 3rd week of September. We have slightly owned Marco Estrada in a game with a 9.5 run total. But I think that's a game that has hugely variant outcomes. And then we have guys like Brett Anderson, or apparently Heath Fillmyer is incredible only on days that I don't play him. I don't know what to do because none of these guys look any good. Like, I look at Fillmyer's starts. I know we talked about him the last time you and I did this, which I believe was September 7th, which was the day that he went -10. He's got 3 starts sandwiched around that at 18, 18, and 21. So obviously, if you get any one of those games, you're doing backflips at 5,100, but he's still not good. I don't know what to make
Yeah.
of this. No ownership here at all besides Erlin and Estrada, but that can't be the way that we would want to play this.
How highly is Estrada projected?
9.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Estrada I think is interesting just because of the matchup. I mean, you so you have issues with him just because we know he's been dealing with a sore back that he thought might linger the rest of the season. But the price tag I think more than makes up for that. And then so if you just think about him as a pitcher, he really, really struggles with right-handed power in particular. There's none of that on this team outside of Trey Mancini and Renato Nunez. If you want to, even mention Nunez.
Mhm.
Uh, and against lefties, even during this stretch where Estrada's been putting up more negative starts than positive starts, he hasn't been terrible. He has like a 318 expected WOBA with a 12.7% swinging strike rate against lefties over the last month. That's pretty good for the price tag. If you look at the movement on his fastball and his changeup, the two pitches that he really, really relies on, it's been back to where you want it to be. Like it had been down a little bit during that stretch where maybe he was dealing with his back. He's getting a little bit better movement. The swinging strikes have been there despite the fact he's been, giving up home runs. I think that there's upside for him here. I think like he has just as much upside as Robbie Erlin does.
Yeah, that I would agree with that completely. His floor is just miles below his.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I think Erlin's decent too. I mean, he against righties this year, he has a 314 expected WOBA, 177 expected ISO, 10.5% swinging strike rate. Like he's been fine. I guess like my point is kind of we talked about the guys. We talked about Archer, who obviously is a good play. He's been really popular. But then we talked about Gonzalez and Anderson being guys who yeah, it could work and they'll be low owned, which is nice. But we don't have a ton of confidence in them, and they do actually have to have a pretty decent start at their price tag for us to really be happy. I kind of feel like I'd rather go ahead and play a bunch of Robbie Erlin, but then also maybe be overweight on Estrada, maybe be a little bit overweight on Philmeyer, who is capable of giving us 15 to 20 points.
Phil
It
Meyer at literally no ownership right now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm confident in these guys, but I'm not confident in Gio. I'm not confident in Tyler Anderson either. Why not save $2,000, get an extra, Mike Trout against Brett Anderson or, whoever you want to pay up for? Because I just don't think like if you run slates like this, 1,000 times, it just feels like so many times those mid-range pitchers end up outscoring the bottom of the barrel pitchers by 3-4 points,
Yeah.
and it's just really, really not worth it when you talk about the upside you could get with bats.
Yeah, if you're getting 12 points out of Marco Estrada today, but you're only going to get 15 out of Chris Archer, then, I mean, Estrada's the play by a mile. And that's going to happen a lot.
Right. And you don't even have to, it's not like you have to like completely fade Archer either. Like if you just, kind of cap Archer at 30% where he probably should be instead of, whatever he's going to end up at.
Yeah.
And then, make the rest of that, just allocate the extra 20% or whatever to Estrada and Philmeyer. Yeah, I don't know. I think that you can kind of get some interesting builds that way and probably get more upside.
And not just that, but if you do come down a bit on Archer and try to add in more Philmeyer or Estrada and keeping, heavy ownership to Robbie Erlin, all those guys, anybody below Gio, that's also going to allow you to open up more paths to get more Walker Buehler, or I mean, if you want to, more Robbie Ray. I don't know. I don't really like a lot of that area, but I think Carrasco has the clear top option, safest option, best upside. I don't see anyone else near that, but Walker Buehler only at 17% ownership today, I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too, because I would love to be overweight on Walker Buehler, facing the Rockies outside of Coors Field, despite the fact that Clayton Kershaw was trash for me last night.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, obviously a really good spot, but I don't really want to get overweight on Buehler by cutting Carrasco ownership just because I love that spot. I love the price tag.
Yeah.
So I think that if I can get more Walker Buehler while also being kind of contrarian by just being overweight on really cheap pitching on a slate where there's not much opportunity cost. Like I just like how that's going to let my lineups look, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm giving Walker Buehler 2 thumbs up on Fantasy Cruncher right now. Check and see how that sort of shakes out. Looks like I'd have to give one to Carrasco too and force both of those guys to run to the top. Archer's going to be the guy that is sort of makes your decision on what your lineup construction is going to be. Because there are so many, like, I had so many really awesome looking Chris Archer, Robbie Erlin lines. And that was what I thought was the most interesting part of it, is getting that line but not getting Erlin.
Yeah. So I'm just like terrified to fade Carrasco or Bueller just because I like their spots so much. And it just feels like a slate where it's really conceivable that every pitcher scores like 15 to 18 points and then one of those guys scores like 36.
Yeah, like if I told you that Carrasco went 8 innings and had 14 Ks today, you would be like, yeah, he played the White Sox. They're shit.
Right.
You're like,
yeah. Like he's really good. He's good against lefties. It's just such a good spot. Obviously it's baseball, but I'm just like terrified of fading the two guys at the top who are really good pitchers and in really good spots.
exactly. That's where I'm at. I'm at the point now where I kind of just, we've got, let's see, 73% total ownership. So 36.5% a piece, we'll say, for Bueller and Carrasco. I'd rather just give them, 80, 85, 90, have those two guys, and everything else from a pitching side can just fill itself in with whatever it needs to be. Because I don't think that anyone else matches their upside. Like, sure, Severino and Price, and like Hamels and Ray can have those games, but Severino and Price, Yankees versus Red Sox, not exactly a spot where you're targeting like heavy levels of pitching. Cole Hamels, no projected ownership today. Is that a spot we should be looking at more? I just don't know like what you pair him with.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one that I think is kind of interesting. It's just that I still don't think I'm going to want to sacrifice Bueller or Carrasco for him. So it would end up being like weird lineups where I have two aces.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do think I prefer Hamels to Ray. I mean, it's a tough spot for Ray. He's had trouble pitching at Chase forever, basically. Severino obviously has his own issues lately, plus has the tough matchup with Boston. Price has been really good, but Yankees. Yeah, I mean, Hamels is like the one other ace that I actually would have interest in.
Robbie Ray, 12% expected ownership. Cole Hamels, 0.
Yeah, I'll take Hamels there. And I told you actually before the show that on my baseline projections, the only changes I've really made so far, I bumped up Walker Bueller a little bit because I wanted to make sure I have him. But I increased the good Cubs hitters, especially the righties, just by 5% on their projection because I don't expect them to have ownership, and I do think it's a really, really high upside spot.
I could not agree more, especially if Robbie Ray is going to get 12% ownership. That's like kind of chalky today. 1, 2, 3. He's the 5th most owned pitcher on DraftKings. If that's the case, then I'd just happily have some Cubs to be on that opposite side. They're the Cubs. No reason to have 6% owned Chris Bryant or 5% owned Javi Baez. Like, I'll take my chances and hope that it's the Robbie Ray that gets bombed, because that dude exists.
Oh yeah. So I mean, Hamels, the swinging strike stuff hasn't been great lately. 11% against Cincinnati in his last start, 9.5 against Washington, 8.4 against the Brewers. Those are both tough matchups, though. 17% against the Mets. I mean, he's been good against righties. His best pitch is that changeup. We know he can get, strikeouts. He's been good outside of Texas all season long.
Bueller, Carrasco, a little bit of Cole Hamels, Archer. I guess shares of Anderson and Gio, just because if they're at 4%, I want to be over. And then however much Heath Fillmyer, Marco Estrada, and Robbie Erlin I can get.
Oh. So I guess this is a slate. Would you consider Dallas Keuchel here as an Archer pivot?
It's good. Well, a lot of it for me will depend on what that line comes out at, which is still not out.
Yeah,
at 11:35.
I think now I'm seeing Matthew Festa as the Mariners pitcher. I don't know what that is, but
yeah, that's I see that as well.
Hopefully that means the line's coming.
Let's look up Festa here. I can't imagine he is. Okay. So he's faced 25 batters in the majors this season, 5 1/3 innings, 1 strikeout, 1 walk. That's 1 strikeout and 25 plate appearances is not great. Let's see what he's been doing in the minors. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to matter at all. It doesn't appear that so he's just a reliever anyway.
Yeah, I don't think he's in the player pool.
Even better. Matthew Festa is even assigned to the Mariners roster. Right
Struck out guys at AA.
But yeah, 67 Ks in 49 innings. But I mean, it's all just relief work. So, I don't know what. So, what's your goal if you start Keuchel?
He scores 16.5 points, and Archer scores 14. I mean, that's what it is.
You play Keuchel for his floor.
Yeah, basically, and I hate doing that. I mean, it's another reason I would just rather get out of the price range. But I don't have the ownership in front of me. But if Archer, I assume, is going to be significantly higher owned, I mean, Keuchel beats Archer a pretty fair amount of the time here, and it could just be I'll beat the field when Keuchel beats Archer, and when Archer beats Keuchel, I'll lose. But if you're going to get, I don't know, hypothetically, like 3-1, like a 45% Archer and a 15% Keuchel or something, I think Keuchel beats Archer enough that you're probably on the right side if you just make Keuchel your pitcher in this range.
Okay, so 46% Chris Archer expected ownership right now. Dallas Keuchel, 8.
Yeah, I mean, math-wise, Keuchel's the better play. Like ownership-wise, odds-wise, he's the better play. But it's just, is it really worth it? Like, if Keuchel beats Archer 18-16, does that help you win a tournament, or were you better off not even having either one?
I mean, that can't matter, I would imagine. What you're really trying to do is get Keuchel on a day where Archer puts up 10.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, but I mean, if Keuchel beats Archer, if Keuchel scores 18 and Archer scores significantly less, I just think that there's still going to be a lot of times where it's like, okay, cool, I beat Chris Archer, but I still would have been better off having a different SP2, other than Keuchel's 18 points.
Yeah, I agree, because you're getting the exact same roster construction no matter who you have.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of it being 46-8. But I don't really know what the level is where I would want it. Let me see if I can get to this quickly. How often I have Archer outscoring Keuchel. So that'll be... I don't know, talk about something while I try to figure out how to do this.
Yes, but I mean, so in general, it's a strategy I like. Like I've had a lot of success with it in NBA. Just the natural pivot where you basically have the same roster construction and you just have your low owned guy beat the really popular guy. But in baseball, it's different, obviously, because roster construction is it's so unique to baseball. Like having to get in, hitters creating so much upside and stuff. And so that's why I kind of think that even going for the 18 Keuchel to 8 Chris Archer or whatever, where you have basically the best lineups that are built, that are constructed that way. It's just still tough to see that being like the optimal way to win tournaments. So it still comes down to like how likely is Keuchel to give me 25 fantasy points here, and he's just not really that guy. It's not really a great matchup for him, so that's why I would still hesitate, even regardless of the ownership. And I think I'd still prefer to just get out of the price range.
All right, I have my sim here, 4,000 games. I have Archer outscoring Dallas Keuchel 74% of the time. And that includes everything. I don't have a buffer of if it's 0.01 points ahead, then it's just ahead. So Archer 3-1.
That seems pretty fair.
Yeah, I think so too. And I could probably set a range where it says neither if it's within a point in either direction. But
yeah, my guess would have been between 2 and 3-1.
Yeah. And I like that logistics, and that means that instead of 46-8, you probably want to shave a little Archer and have a little bit more Keuchel. But honestly, like I think that I'm with you now in that I would rather just have a different lineup construction and have more Philmeyer, Estrada, Erlin.
Yeah. And there's just so much less risk taking cheap pitchers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, granted they could roll out. They're much more likely to roll out the old like -10 burger.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like if you get to 9 on Marco Estrada, you're still alive.
Right. Well, and I also like so this is something that I think kind of doesn't really get talked about that much because we get like so bogged down in talking about individual plays. But especially, if you are making multiple lineups, just the number of players in a range. Like Chris Archer, if he fails or he underperforms, he's like the only real guy that's going to have ownership in this price range that you're fading. And then there are so many cheap pitchers on this slate. Like it's not a good spot for Dylan Covey, but he's 4,500. You have Estrada at 48. Phil Myers real cheap. Erlin, obviously, like by being overweight on kind of like all the cheap pitchers, you only need a couple of them to actually have good games to give you some really, really good lineups that have the potential to win a tournament.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm starting to see this slate break out now. The fog is slowly lifting from my brain. The coffee is finally getting into my body. I'm feeling pretty good there. I think we probably want to talk. Here's what we'll do. So we have Buehler and Carrasco at the top. Carrasco 56% expected ownership. Walker Buehler 17. Since I already have this little sim set up, I can move this stuff around and find out how often I have Buehler ahead of Carlos Carrasco. That could point us to some more answers. Buehler.
Carrasco. My guess would be like 3.5 to 1.
That sounds like a safe bet. Let's see. I think it's probably going to be less than that, actually. Well, I don't know. We're about to find out. Carlos Carrasco. Walker Buehler. I'm going to spell your name wrong to start. Oh, I think I got it. God, sometimes I'm just smart. Alrighty.
The big difference for me just being how deep Carrasco is allowed to go in the games.
Sure. Basically going to be the same shakeout as before. Yeah. It's 69% Carrasco to 30% Walker Buehler. So a little over 2 to 1.
Yeah.
And yet it's 56% to 17. This is definitely a spot where I want to be overweight on Buehler, and I'm just going to force that in. I'd rather have more of both of those guys. They have ceilings that can change this slate.
Yeah. I mean, I really just want to be overweight on both of them. If they are the reason I don't make money tonight, then I can live with that.
Yeah, Buehler in his last start, 37.6. In his last 6 starts, he's at a 28-pointer, a 30-pointer, a 27-pointer. I mean, that's what we're looking for here. When nothing else is standing out, I'll bet on the guy that does just that sort of stuff relatively regularly and hope that I catch the right Philmeyer, Estrada, Erlin line with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think... Actually, I don't know. I know Story's MRI was fine, but I guess he's still not in the projected lineup tonight. I was going to say there's at least more strikeouts for Buehler.
Yeah, the Rockies are so bad on the road against righties.
Yeah, last night's game was really frustrating. Like, I had, I think, 40% Kershaw, and he was 11% owned. And he just kept getting in, like, 2-strike count after 2-strike count and then getting ground balls to, like, second base. It was really, really annoying. Hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, it's so weird how the type of start matters to who your pitcher is. Because in theory, like if you got that sort of 2-strike count but a ground out to second and you had Robbie Erlin, you're like, all right, just picking up outs. But when it's Kershaw and they're not strikeouts, it's like, shit, not enough points.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what you want out of, whatever cheap pitcher you play. I mean, that's kind of Phil Myers' MO. That's what Dylan Covey does.
Yeah. Just get as many outs as possible in any way that you can.
Right.
Questions in the chat. Who does the projections for Osimo? So the rankings are based on Alex's projections. The projections themselves are done by Hot Magic, Andrew Barron, formerly of FanVice, now of Osimo.com.
Yeah. No, he puts a lot of work into those.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's a good model. Very good model.
Yep.
Will Griffey on FanDuel, would it be smart to play 4 lineups, each one having one of the top 4 pitchers, and play whatever fits at bats? I probably wouldn't be playing 4. I mean, all right, let's say you were playing 4 lines of pitching on FanDuel. Walker Buehler is, I think, pretty clearly the best option because he's $1,800 cheaper than Carlos Carrasco.
Yeah.
And then Carrasco would be 2 for me. But either way, those would be the 2. I wouldn't be playing Price. I wouldn't be playing Severino.
I think FanDuel is a pretty good site to take a flyer on Tyler Anderson. It would give you a completely different roster construction, but he's cheaper than Brett Anderson. He's barely more expensive than Erlin. He's cheaper than Stratton. He's cheaper than Harvey. He's cheaper than Gio. I mean, he's $6,400. That's a spot where I think obviously you're going to get him at like 1% ownership, and it would let you, fit in whatever bats you want. So if I did make a lineup on FanDuel that didn't have one of Carrasco or Buehler, which I'm really not even sure that I would on this slate.
Yeah.
I think that just going all the way down and using Tyler Anderson as your punt because he's just the most talented guy in the price range makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I would probably have 3 of the 4 lineups of Buehler and Carrasco. However that breaks out, fine. And then I think 1 of Tyler Anderson in that situation is fine. I wouldn't really need a ton of Archer at 7,800.
Yeah.
He's already at 24% expected ownership.
Especially knowing how bad FanDuel's pricing normally is, like how easy it is to find hitter value. I could pretty conceivably see me just playing entirely Walker Buehler and Carlos Carrasco lineups.
Agreed. So there you go, Will Griffey. Probably wouldn't need 4 unique pitchers on FanDuel, not on this slate. Doesn't add up for me. Polly, did you guys kill Jake? Jake and I did the show earlier today, man. If anybody got killed over this past week, it would have looked like me. I was a ghost. All right, so you mentioned manually knocking down the Padres.
Yeah.
I'm going to hop to that game now because I'm curious to get your take on this. There's Jake. R.I.P. me. We have 3 guys on the Padres, Myers, Renfroe, Franmil Reyes, all projected at 18% ownership or higher. Is there a reason other than just these guys are cheap? What am I missing that's showing the Padres getting so much ownership?
Yeah, that's kind of what I can't figure out either. Like, obviously those guys have power upside, and I like playing them when they're cheap, but I don't know why they're popping in models so much. Like, Stratton's been pretty decent since coming back. He made changes. They're righties, which favors him. I have no issue playing those guys for the cheap power upside, but I don't want them as like my highest owned hitters, especially if they're going to be popular, because they're just not good enough hitters. They strike out so much that I don't want them at high ownership. I didn't even realize they were going to be that popular, and I was cutting them back to try and cut down on how many Padres stacks I was getting.
Exactly. Same page. I can't imagine wanting any. Like, I wouldn't even want any shares of this in Petco. It's not like this game's in Colorado or something crazy. It's
like, I'm fine with one-offs. They're really cheap and they have
sure.
upside, but it just feels like a spot that I don't need a ton of, especially in stack form.
Yeah, a stack seems impossible to me, but I mean, if I have 3,900 for an outfield spot, I'm gonna avoid Will Myers if he's 20% owned.
Right.
There's got to be another guy in that range that's gonna have a better outcome than that.
Billy McKinney, Trey Mancini.
Yeah, that was the one that stood out the most to me. Just really weird spot. Like, the Padres implied total, just in my numbers right now, is under 4. Yeah, on a 10-game slate, how do you get 3 guys at 20% ownership?
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, I guess it's probably because like you're getting Carrasco plus Archer.
Yeah.
In a bunch of lineups.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
there are other teams that I can go to that are cheap.
Yeah.
That, I mean, like, I'd rather just go to the opposite side of this game.
Yeah, because then at least you get leverage.
Yeah, and like, it's, I'd rather have not owned Gorky Hernandez just leading off or something stupid.
Yeah.
Not that I trust him.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of just the ownership game when you're talking about guys like that. And I think it goes back to the bigger point of how we're constructing our lineups on a slate like this. If the Padres and it doesn't even have to be the Padres. If hitters like that, that are very volatile and more often than not aren't really going to come through in the spot, are being forced up in ownership so that people can jam in Chris Archer as their SP2. It just opens up so much more by getting out of that price range at SP2 and having access to much, much better hitters in better spots.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do right now, just as a test, is set up my pitcher pool and run a crunch to see where the team stacks come out after that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave out Price, leave out Severino. I think Archer at 25% is probably like a pretty reasonable spot.
Yeah, it seems fine.
Philmeyer in, Estrada in, Carrasco clearly in. I'll leave Gio in. What do you think? Is Keuchel a guy we want to go to? I know we just did our big Keuchel soliloquy.
I'm not doing it. I just don't want I don't want extra lineups that have Dallas Keuchel at SP2.
Okay. I think we could leave Hamels in.
Yeah.
Which is probably going to pop him quite a bit. Walker Buehler, Tyler Anderson. Right? I think that covers it.
I'm leaving. I'm going to go ahead. I don't know if I'll end up with any. I'm leaving in Brett Anderson and Covey also.
Oh, God, I feel like I should. I don't think they'll pop up regardless.
I don't think
for
they
me
will either, but if I ended up with them in a couple of lineups, I wouldn't hate it.
Let's see. Let's see what teams are the team stack that start popping with minimized Archer. Brewers, Blue Jays, Pirates, Indians, Orioles. All I did was take out pitchers there. I'm not getting any Padres.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what's forcing them up.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, just being there makes me happy. Lots of Robbie Erlin, lots of Buehler, lots of Carrasco, Archer, underweight, and then just overweight on everybody else. And I'm still not even getting like a ton of Philmeyer or, I'd happily get more Marco Estrada. I'm starting to like this, which means based on every time we've done this show, everything that I start to like goes to shit.
Yeah, so, I don't think I've had a good slate doing shows with you, Josh.
No, we are not. It's not going great. It's not. It's a lot of Luke Giolito and sadness.
Yeah.
Speaking of Giolito, somebody... Who was it? Who were we just talking about that got bombed like a lot lately?
Estrada?
Yeah. First word in his write-up from Roto World, I guess it is. Yikes. And then the final sentence is, only Luke Giolito has a higher ERA among qualified starters. It's like, God damn. There's two guys I'm going to be jamming into lineups again. Got to be right eventually, I think.
Yeah. We're running out of time, though. Only a couple weeks left.
I know. And then this process goes to the NBA, and we're probably a lot happier.
Yeah. I'm finally ready for NBA.
So I got 6 teams in more than 20 of the 150 lines. These would be 5-man stacks. Orioles, Blue Jays, Brewers, Pirates, Indians, Yankees. No sign whatsoever of the Padres.
Yeah, I'm running mine right now. So I limited it to 50 stacks or 50 lineups for time, and capped my stacks at 13%. I still am getting Padres, and that's even after dropping their projection a bit, but they're one of my lower owned stacks now. Yeah. Milwaukee, Houston, Toronto, the Cubs, the Yankees, the Orioles, the Indians. Basically the teams that I want.
Sure. Jason Kelly in the chat says, thoughts on Carrasco with a Baltimore Dodgers stack? Yeah, that's fine by me.
Yeah. No problem there. Dodgers and Red Sox are two teams that I think I'm going to have to manually force some exposure to because they're probably rightfully so. They're not projected highly, but their ceilings are just so high.
Agreed. Chris in the chat, I feel like you're doing a disservice to your customers by not telling people Hamels is the absolute nuts tonight. I would be lying if I said that Hamels was the absolute nuts tonight.
I'm a huge Hamels truther, and I'm finding it hard to get to him.
I don't mind him, but to think that he's in a better spot than Carlos Carrasco or Walker Buehler today would be, man, you'd have to do some real mental gymnastics to get there.
So I just would really, 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 really rather have Carrasco plus cheap pitcher
Yeah.
than Hamels plus Archer, is I think what it comes down to.
Yeah, so you'd be looking at what, 17,300 on DK for Hamels and Archer, or Carrasco and Erlin 15-7. So yeah, I'm getting the combination I would prefer at a cheaper price point and more bats. Sign me up.
Huh. I actually just looked at how it spread out my pitchers. I had capped Carrasco and Bueller at 80%, Erlin at 40, and then everyone else at like 20 or 30. It actually gave me 80% Carrasco, 40% Erlin, 24% Bueller, 20% Archer, 20% Geo, 16% Estrada. So I didn't even end up getting, in this crunch at least, any Philmeyer or any of the other cheap guys.
Yeah.
So I could probably end up getting in, even better hitters if I cut back like my Geo exposure.
Yeah, by forcing up more of that Phil Meyer price range, that's really going to open up high-end bats. If you can get that, and especially on a day like today where it's not so much like you want to get this, you obviously need to get your full stack right, but having additional money to get better hitters in your like two-mans or like one-off guys is really what you're looking to handle it, because you're not winning anything if you don't get the first stack right regardless. But I want to have better options than, just three $3,500 guys as my filler instead of, being able to get. I had some lines with like Stanton and two of the Indians guys, and I was like, geez, I like love this.
Yeah, I mean, there were expensive bats in good spots. Like, Brett Anderson's been pretty good, but you have Mike Trout in a great spot at 5,700. Like Stanton and Aaron Judge are both in good, at least high upside spots. Yeah, it's definitely Christian Yelich in another good spot against Harvey.
So is there anybody? There were some spots where people were asking when it was Jake and I, like, oh, do you want a hedge stack or a leverage stack against so-and-so pitcher? Like, no, I don't want any part of the White Sox against Carrasco's ownership because I just don't see the point. Are there any teams that you specifically want to be on the opposite side of just to make sure that you're covering your bases?
I'm not sure. Oh, as far as hedge stacks, no. The guys that I'm playing, I just feel good about. I guess San Francisco, but it's not even for hedging reasons. It's just for leverage. Like Robbie Erlin's going to be really popular.
Yeah.
But even that, I don't know that I'll end up really getting that much of it because San Diego does have a good bullpen and San Francisco is a really bad team in a not good park. So it's just like so much would have to go right for San Francisco to actually be the top scoring stack on this slate or the winning stack.
Right.
Like I guess you could get Carrasco plus Bueller, which would be nice, but I'm not going to force in too much of that. The White Sox are the higher upside spot for sure, but it's just such a bad matchup with Carrasco and they're not even priced down really. So I don't know. Like I kind of like Kansas City as a leverage stack.
Yeah. That I agree with more, because it's not so much that like you want to play the White Sox to get on the opposite side of Carrasco's ownership. You kind of just need to give yourself a reason to not be on Carrasco. Like Carrasco, he can give up 3 runs. That's a problem at his ownership and price, but it doesn't necessarily mean like anything really went well for the White Sox.
Right.
Whereas like Archer, he could put up a 0 today and I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City just has so much, as weird as it is, they do have a lot of upside just because they can run.
Yeah. Merrifield and Mondesi in particular, just...
Yeah. Like, they're a little bit priced up is the issue, but...
Yeah, Mondesi at 4,900 is a healthy price tag in the middle of September.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, I don't know how much of them I'll actually end up with, but if I did, manually force in something for leverage, I think it would be Kansas City.
I'm not even sure I'd want Mondesi's dad while he was on the gas at 4,900. Let's be clear here. He was certainly on the gas.
Yeah. I mean, him and everyone else.
Yeah, he should have been.
Yeah. It's a bad career move not to be.
Yeah. You can put as many steroid needles in my backside as you want if it means that I'm going to be cashing multiple $1 million checks.
Yeah. No question.
I would take steroids for DFS if I could. I would play a dirty game without question.
Yeah, I think you and I, it sounds like, are probably on the same side of that steroid debate.
Yeah, and it's only baseball.
Yeah,
Like
it
it's
it was good for the game. I mean, there were
don't we
really
want to see good people do things as good as they can, like as well as they can? I don't as good as they can. God, I sounded like a moron there. Yeah, I just like, especially I have a bigger problem with it in the NFL than I do in baseball
yeah, yeah, I can see that.
or like MMA. Like I wish that it wasn't in those spots because physical violence is so much higher that like I don't want to see someone get like permanently injured because people are
Right.
getting bigger, faster, stronger. But like if you're gonna get hit with a liner, you're gonna get hit with a liner. Otherwise, it's just making the baseball product itself better.
Right, yeah, like, and it's not, especially with a sport like baseball, like, it's such a specialized skill. It's not like steroids made these guys naturally, or I'm not naturally, but it's not like it made them good at baseball. It just
Yeah,
made them be able to work out better and stay healthy and, get bigger and then apply their skills at a more impressive level.
exactly. I want the best people to be able to play more at a higher level.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious issue I think with it is that if people are doing it, then you basically need to do it to be competitive, and it's really, really freaking bad for you. But outside of the health aspects, like, I don't think it's bad for the sport.
And at this point now, it might not even be bad for you,
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea.
depending on what you're trying to do. Like it's not like guys were running out there looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger at the dish.
Yeah,
You know, you just it's more of a recovery tool than anything else. Although the stuff that like apparently improves your vision is kind of crazy.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It was just, that's a dumb thing from, like, growing up that never made sense to me.
Yeah, people acting like Barry Bonds wasn't a Hall of Famer even before he got on all of it.
Right.
Phenomenal. And that just made him. I don't. He could probably come back in DH right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I mean,
Did you ever look at his
baseball.
stat line from his last year?
I don't remember that one specifically, but I was looking earlier this season. I was looking at, like, Mike Trout stat lines, just kind of appreciating how good he is, and then I pulled up Barry Bonds, and it was just like, oh my god, this is insane.
Oh yeah, Bonds at his peak, 362, 609, 812 slash line.
Yeah, it's absurd in AT&T.
Yeah, 2004. 617 plate appearances, 373 at bats. He was walked 232 times.
That's incredible.
What's he priced at in 2004? 8K?
Yeah, and people are like, you have to play him in cash games.
Yeah, because he's a lock for 2 walks.
Yeah,
232 walks, 45 home runs, 27 doubles. That's what? 30. 75 extra base hits and 232 walks. 300 times he either casually walked himself to first base or was at least on second or back in the dugout. But yeah, his final year, 477 plate appearances. He played 126 games at age 42, 276 average, 480 on base percentage, and 565 slugging. And then they blackballed his ass.
yeah, it's insane.
He'd have been a DH for
I'm glad he at
6
least
more
got a
years.
job after baseball.
Oh yeah, me too. It didn't help that he was an asshole.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like he had a 4-digit OPS as a 42-year-old guy on a Giants team that is not in the American League. Imagine if he just went over to the AL, like if he was like, all right, I'm going to go play for Oakland now. And he's the DH for the A's
Right.
from 2008 until whenever he wanted to stop. 480 on base percentage as a 42-year-old guy is just, I can't even wrap my head around it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Totally different subject. Have you looked at Matt Harvey at all?
No, I haven't.
Like, I assume that I'm not going to like him because Brewers in Milwaukee, but he's been good. Like, he's been good against righties for a while, but over the last month against lefties, 269 expected WOBA, 14.5% swinging strike rate.
Look, I don't mind it. The lefties are kind of scary in Milwaukee. And the fact that like you can play 5% Harvey and you're good.
Yeah.
Final note on Bonds before we change the subject again. Like I said, 480 on base percentage for Bonds that year. I believe it led the league. Mike Trout leads the league among qualified hitters this year at 466. Trout obviously at a little bit different of an age bracket
Yeah.
than Barry Bonds at this time. But yeah,
You said Bonds was at what? Trout's at 466.
Trout's at 466, Bonds 480
Wow.
in his final season.
Wow.
So yeah, he would have led this league right now in on-base percentage, and he never played again. Fascinating.
Yeah.
If he like finished with 762, I mean, he certainly gets to 800. 38 more home runs would not have been a stretch, especially going to the AL.
2 seasons tops.
Yeah. God, what a dude. He's so good. So good. Oh, terrifying. Yeah, you could talk me into Harvey at small shares, but it's just, again, I think just not being on Archer is even better, and going down to that low end is the play.
I think so too.
Which means gear up for Dallas Keuchel, Matt Harvey, Tyler Anderson, Felix Pena to have big nights. The mid-tier is where it's at.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I agree. Like, I just think that's the best way to go. Have mostly Erlin in that range because I think he is the best play, and then you mix in the other guys and hope that they come close to Archer.
What's the spread that you want to consider it a victory? How much, we'll say that we're averaging Phil Meyer, Estrada, and Erlin together. Like, what's your threshold for saying that you were successful?
So I guess within, 4 or 5 points, because I think I can probably make that up with hitters. Okay. Like, if Archer goes for, 16 and I get 12 from one of my guys, then I'm fine.
Agreed. Yeah, I think probably anything north of 12 on these, on the Phil Meyer, Estrada, Erlin category, I'll call it a victory.
Yeah, I mean, point per dollar, if you get 12 from your 5K guy, like, you would need about 18 from Archer. So, yeah. And that's, like, point per dollar isn't the best gauge in tournaments anyway, because you're not accounting for the fact that you can't really measure hitters in point per dollar, like, projections.
No.
So just getting yourself that much upside can make up for being a little bit behind at point per dollar pitching. So, yeah, I mean, I think that Archer really has to go probably for, I don't know, like 22 to 25 at least for it to start getting to where you're going to be in trouble with the cheaper guys.
I have Archer projected for 21.6.
I have, I don't know.
Good story.
Yeah. I don't, where the hell did he go? I have 24.9 in my tournament projections, but that includes like 75th percentile and 85th percentile outcomes.
Gotcha. Who do you have higher in your projections, Archer or Buehler? I say this because I have Archer higher than Buehler.
Right now I have Buehler, but that's just because I manually adjusted him to where I wanted him.
Gotcha.
I thought he was under projected by my baseline, so I didn't feel bad about forcing him up. But yeah, so now I have him higher than Archer, but he wasn't originally.
Yeah, I think that I have Buehler naturally under projected and Archer slightly over projected.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing with Archer too. Like, it's September 19th, and Chris Archer, I don't think, has put together one really, really good fantasy game. So at some point, using the numbers from the last couple of years is probably over projecting.
Chris Archer has one start since September 2nd above 20 fantasy points. Wow. I didn't realize it was that bad. Yeah. June 2nd, May 28th, he had 23.9. After that, on July 22nd, he had a 28-pointer. It's the only time that he's been above 20 fantasy points. Wow. It's so weird, too, because like there's not anything really, really glaring like wrong with him. He's just not having a day where like it all goes right. Right. Yeah, it's like he gets the strikeouts and then he gives up 3 home runs or something. Yeah. Yeah, he had a stretch. It just makes him like terrifying to fade because of that. So like his ceiling is still through the roof. What's the fantasy point output that he has today where you're like, shit? 30. Okay.
28-30.
He's barely done that once.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the ceiling is there. It's just that he's making so many mistakes within games to where he's never actually like getting to that ceiling. But it still just makes it so scary not to have him.
Yeah. I'm slowly talking myself into this more and more of like really trimming my ownership to Archer, and
Yeah.
I'm just seeing it being the one where Archer's
He-
got 34 fantasy points through 4 innings or something crazy.
Right. And then on
Drop
top of
third
that,
strikes and getting a fourth strikeout in the inning
right.
type stuff.
And then you get the Franmil Reyes double dong.
Yeah. Daily fantasy sports is the best, man. Do you have anybody else you want to touch on, or any hitting stacks or anything just from a strategy perspective today that we want to touch on before we get out of here?
Are you high on the Yankees?
I'm high on parts of the Yankees.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too, I think.
Um,
Judge, McCutchen, Stanton, Sanchez.
I have a lot of McCutchen. He's at 22% expected ownership. I'm right there with the field. I would like to be there. We weren't projecting any ownership to Judge on DK, which kind of surprised me. But he's a guy that I've got quite a bit of. And then Stanton, 4,800. I have 31% Stanton. We're projecting 3. It won't be 3. It'll be, 8, 9, 10, whatever. But he's the type of guy that I'd rather have 25 plus ownership on. Like, why? I mean, I know the price is dramatically different, so it's kind of a stupid way to pose this. But if Will Myers is going to be 22% owned, just give me Stanton at a third of that.
Right.
I'll find the money somewhere else. I'll drop down from Archer to Heath Philmeyer.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me is like I can drop Archer to whoever you want to pick from that range and turn my Padres into like Stanton and Trout or Stanton and Judge.
Yeah.
That's just so much more upside.
It really is. It's just Archer needs to put up a game that he hasn't put up in the entire season for me to regret it. Otherwise, I'd much rather have Stanton for sure in almost every scenario. So yeah, I like McCutchen, Judge, Stanton, Sanchez. I think those were the 4 guys you said. Did you mention Didi? I can't remember.
I didn't.
Okay. What do you think about Hicks? Hicks is a Jake guy.
He's fine. More of a in stacks guy for me, I think, than a one-off.
Yeah, I agree. The Sanchez ownership, I don't really know what to do with. 26% expected ownership.
I'm fine playing him.
There aren't that many good catchers.
Yeah. I mean, that's weird. Right now I just have like globally my hitter ownership capped at like 25%, and I'm only getting 10% Sanchez right now, which is really weird. I'm not really sure why. But
so yeah, I'm over the field on the Yankees on DraftKings. I'm a fan.
Where'd they go? I don't know what's going on. I just lost like all my Yankee stacks. I took out like all those mid-range pitchers and lost like all my Yankee stacks, but I'm getting more Padres. I don't know.
Sounds like it's going great over there.
Yeah. I have some work to do in Cruncher.
Trying to see if there's any other teams that are like similar. So you would prefer the Yankees to the Astros today, I guess?
No. I prefer the Astros.
Oh, okay. I feel like they're going sort of like underrepresented.
Yeah, I was kind of curious what would happen with Yankees ownership, just because like Price has been really good. Price has name value. But the Yankees are so cheap that I thought they're obviously think they're really good plays.
Total on the Seattle-Houston game is out now. I had it in at 9 in my numbers. It is 8.5 with some juice heading towards the over. So I feel pretty confident that I slotted that in a proper way. I want to see if there's a money line on that game.
Right now for Houston.
Yeah. And it is Festa 210, 213. What do I have that in here as? Oh yeah, I'm giving a lot more love to the Dallas Keuchels of the world now. Not that I'm going to have them or anything, but just makes that team look a lot better. Yeah, I think the Astros need more love today.
Yeah, I really like them.
Is there a reason
I
Correa is
love
hitting sixth now?
What'd you say?
Is there a reason Correa is hitting sixth?
I think just because he sucked since coming back.
That's fair.
But yeah, I mean, I like it as currently constructed because Gurriel is not in the middle of the lineup anymore. Marwin is, and he's cheap and multi-position eligible. It's like the best time to stack Houston because they used to be such a pain in the ass with the way they built their lineup with like Reddick batting 5 and Gurriel batting 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the idea of being pretty heavy on the Astros tonight.
Yeah, right. They've been popping as one of my highest owned stacks every time I run Cruncher, even right now while it's doing whatever the hell it's doing.
And they're like a middle of the pack ownership team today.
Yeah, them, Toronto, and Milwaukee. Pretty much no matter what I do, are the 3 that are coming in like maxed out. Milwaukee, I don't completely agree with that. I might cut that back a little bit, but Houston and Toronto, I think are 2 of the best.
Yeah, I'm with you. Orioles, Indians, Brewers, Pirates, Yankees, Diamondbacks, Padres. These are all teams that have higher expected ownership than the Astros tonight. That makes me like it even more.
Yeah.
And I'll have an easier time fitting said Astros into my lineups because I'll have less Chris Archer and more we'll pick your sloppy guy at the bottom here.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you there.
I think that's it. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Moral of the story for today. You can probably put together a better lineup if you get away from that ownership of Chris Archer. But know this, now that we are saying that, Chris Archer is going to be fantastic because we are constantly wrong as a 2-man pair here. Whatever we say goes the other way. So if you want to fade us, make your money there. No shame in it. Feels good to be back. 2 shows under my belt now. In just 4 hours of being awake. I love it.
It was good doing a show with you. First time in what, like a week or something?
Yeah, I've been gone since Tuesday of last week. So we left Wednesday morning. We left a week ago earlier today. So September 11th was the last day that I was doing shows. Crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
Good to have you back.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Andrew and Ben coming up at 2:30 from A to B. Adam, you and Lofty going tonight?
Yep.
All right. Deeper dive tonight, somewhere in that 4:45 to 5 o'clock range. And then myself and Chris Spags going live, 6 to lock, going traditional style. Me and Chris giving Jake the night off. Everybody's been picking up a lot of slack for me, so I appreciate every single person at the website. Everybody's been great. So tune into all of that extra content. Now that I'm back, we can get normalized again. Best of luck, everybody. We will talk to you later.